Hello and welcome to today's Proven Learning Series session on understanding production incentives in proven jobs. In today's session, we will review the incentive package, a standard feature included with proven jobs. We will focus in on how to set up and run incentive for specific employee types with the flexibility to set up different commission scales based on job type and qualifying criteria. Once defined, the incentive report will recap by employee their overall performance for the selected period and showcase their total incentive payout. Before we begin today's session, let's review a few housekeeping items. All attendees have been muted during today's session to cut down on background noise. Your videos are automatically turned off during today's session to avoid any distractions. This session's recording will be available via our PSA Help Library, in addition to our company's YouTube channel. Any questions that you have during today's session will need to be directed to our PSA support team, which can be reached at support@canamsys.com. In today's session agenda, we will review the required role security permissions to complete the setup of the incentive, as well as how to give users outside of the administrators the ability to run the incentive package. We will also review in company settings how to set up the incentive details by job type, by employee type, by scale, along with the desired incentive qualifications for each employee type. Administrators will also have the option in company settings to choose how the incentive detail report will calculate commissions based on either total invoice or total profit. We will then review how to run the incentive package after setup is complete and how to select the desired incentive calculation, a weighted profit margin percent by job type or by individual job profit margin percent by job type. And lastly, we'll review how to finalize the jobs once incentive has been run for all applicable employee types for the selected period. We will start off with reviewing the required role security permissions. Navigate to the main menu settings, Roles, select the Edit button next to the administrator role. Select Jobs, select Incentive. For the role to be able to create, delete, edit, and view the incentive setup, the setup security permissions will need to be selected within the applicable roles. The setup permissions are typically assigned to only the administrator role. For roles that will need to run the incentive package, meaning to simply generate the incentive reports, they must have the security permissions selected for the Run Incentive Package. The Run Incentive Package security permissions allows for the incentive package option to be visible in the Jobs menu. If the role security does not have this security permission, they will not see the incentive package option. As always, if changes are made to the role security permissions, make sure to select the Save button before navigating away. You will also want to repeat this step for each applicable role security. Please note, changes made to the role security permissions can take up to 5 minutes to update and reflect in the user accounts. To set up the incentive, navigate to the main menu Settings, Company Settings, select Jobs. Select Edit Incentive Setup. You'll notice that there are two tabs in the upper left, Incentive Setup and Incentive Qualification Setup. In the Incentive Setup tab, select the blue plus Create button to define the job type, employee type, scale, and incentive details. This setup must be completed per job type for each applicable employee type. For example, if both estimators and PMs are eligible for incentive, this setup will need to be created for both employee types, one for estimator and one for project manager for each applicable job type. Within each incentive setup, you will define the job type, employee type, scale, and the commission percentage. The scale represents different commission tiers, so you can assign different commission percentages if needed. For example, If you have a senior project manager, that will have a different commission percentage than your standard project managers. The system will allow up to 20 scales. Before running the incentive package, this scale will need to be defined on the internal employee contact records. To apply the scale to the employee record, navigate to the main menu Relationships, Contacts, and search for the internal employee contact record. Ensure they have the appropriate employee type and scale selected. You will need to repeat this step for each applicable employee that will be eligible for incentive. Now let's look at the Incentive Qualification Setup tab. This area is defined by job dates, employee type, and the time frame of days for the qualifying criteria. For example, the receive to accounting closed is set to 100 days. This is telling the system that if a PM is listed on the Jobs Relationship tab for a job type set up for incentive, and the receive to accounting close is less than 180 days, then they are incentive eligible for that job, and the incentive report will populate with true next to the job. Please note that only one qualifying criteria can be set up per employee type. However, the qualifying criteria can be modified before running the incentive if needed. The system, when running the incentive package, can be set up to calculate the commission amount based on either the job's invoiced amount or the job's profit amount. To do this, navigate to the main menu Settings, Company Settings, Jobs, select the Work Order tab. In the Incentive Report template field, select Incentive Detail Report for invoice or Incentive Detail Profit Report for profit. As always, if changes are made to the company settings, make sure to select the Save button before navigating away. To run the incentive package, once all setup has been completed, navigate to the main menu Jobs, select Incentive Package. Remember, only users with the role security permission enabled for Run Incentive Package will see this menu option. The incentive package is broken into 4 sections. Working from left to right, the date criteria allows you to pick any date type that has been captured on the Dates tab within the job file. For example, if you want to run the incentive for jobs received over a certain date range, you can select the receive date. Or if you want to run the incentive for jobs that have been paid over a certain date range, you can select the paid date. However, other date options are available in the drop-down list for selection. The Other Options allows you to define the status of the jobs you're wanting to include when running the incentive. Your job status options include Open, Closed, or All, which includes both open and closed jobs. By default, the job status is selected to All. In this area, you also have the option to include Lost or Finalized jobs. Lost will include jobs that have been marked with a loss code within the job file. Finalized jobs means once the incentive package is run and the Finalized Job button is selected, those jobs will no longer populate in the incentive package. The Finalized Jobs button is not by employee, so once a job is finalized, it will no longer populate for any employee. A job should only be finalized once the incentive package is run for all employee types. The qualifying criteria will default with what was previously set up on the Incentive Qualification Setup tab within your company settings. However, it can be modified here before running the incentive if needed. Note, if your company does not require a qualifying criteria in order to earn incentive, the from date and the to date fields can be set to the same date type and the number of days set to 0. This, in essence, will qualify all jobs true for incentive. You will, however, want to choose a date type that is being captured on all jobs. In the employee filter, select the employee type and employee name from the drop-down list. The incentive package will need to be run individually for each incentive-eligible employee. The minimum qualifying invoice would require the employee to have a minimum invoice dollar amount before they are eligible for commission. For example, if you had a minimum qualifying invoice amount of $120,000, but the employee only had $100,000 in invoices for the jobs in the selected date criteria range, then they would not be eligible to receive commission. If the checkbox is checked, the incentive report will show the commissioned amount the employee would have gotten had they met the qualifying invoiced amount. The minimum qualifying invoice can also be set up within the internal employee contact records if desired, but it can be manually entered here before running the incentive package. To run the incentive package, enter the date criteria, other options, skip over the qualifying criteria, as this will populate automatically when the employee filter is selected. Once all items are selected, click the Find Jobs button in the upper left. This action will generate a list of jobs below based on the selected criteria. A check mark next to the job indicates the job has met the defined qualifying criteria and is eligible for commission, which will display as qualified true on the incentive report. Jobs that are unchecked, did not meet the defined qualifying criteria, and are not eligible for commission, which will display as qualified false on the incentive report. If you wish to include a job that did not meet the qualifying criteria, the checkbox can be manually checked or vice versa unchecked to unqualify a job. Once all selections have been made, click the Print Details in the upper left to view the incentive detail report. The incentive detail report will open in a separate tab in your internet browser. Before running the incentive report, you will need to decide how the system will calculate commission. The system can be set to calculate commission on a weighted profit margin percent by job type, which is the default setting, or a profit margin percent by individual job by job type. We will first review the weighted profit margin percent by job type. For each job type, a calculation is done to determine the weighted profit margin percent for all jobs in the date range selected in the date criteria when running the incentive, regardless if the job qualified as true or false. The weighted profit margin percent equals the total profit divided by the total invoice times 100. Commission is earned if the weighted profit margin percent is greater than the commission percent defined for the job type by employee type in the incentive setup. The commission amount equals the total qualified invoice, which is the total invoice amount for jobs qualified as true, times the commission percent defined in the incentive setup. Commission can only be earned on jobs that are qualified true. In this example, the weighted profit margin percent is 50.13%, earning a 1% commission on the total qualified invoices, which is the total invoice amount for jobs qualified as true. We will now review option 2, profit margin percent by individual job by job type. For each job type, a calculation is done to determine the profit margin percent for each job individually. The profit margin percent equals the job's total profit divided by the job's total invoice times 100. Commission is earned if the individual job profit margin percent is greater than the commission percent defined for the job type by the employee type in the incentive setup. The commission amount is equal to the total of all commission, which has been calculated individually by job, for jobs that met the defined profit percent and qualified as true. Commission can only be earned on jobs that are qualified true. In this example, the individual jobs with a profit margin percent greater than 49%, but less than or equal to 77%, will earn a 1% commission. Less than or equal to 49% will earn a 0% commission. If you want to use the second option calculation, the profit margin percentage by individual job by job type, the checkbox incentive package show commission by job must be enabled in the main menu settings, company settings, jobs. As always, if changes are made, make sure to select the Save button before navigating away. Once the incentive package is run for all eligible employees and the Finalize Job button is selected, those jobs will no longer populate in the incentive report unless the checkbox to include Finalized is selected in the other options. The Finalize Job button is not by employee, so once a job is finalized, that job will no longer populate when running the incentive package for any employee. A job should only be finalized once it's run for every employee. For example, if the jobs assigned PM and estimator are both eligible for incentive, the jobs should not be finalized until the incentive package has been run for each employee. Please note all jobs appearing in the list, regardless if they are checked or unchecked, will be finalized if the Finalize Job button is selected. Jobs that have been finalized will display the following banner on the Jobs Info tab. Incentive package has been run for this job. Once a job is finalized, it cannot be undone. If jobs are finalized in error, please reach out to our support team for assistance. This does conclude our Proven Learning Series session on understanding production incentives in proven jobs. If you have any questions or concerns, please direct them to our PSA support team at support@canmsys.com. Thank you.